Hearing loss in the human population, we often end up looking at younger stages in the mouse because those are the equivalent early stages in comparing the two species. We know from our studies in the mouse that there is a very wide range of different things that can go wrong inside the inner ear that causes hearing loss or deafness. One of the things that can go wrong is what we might call the battery of the inner ear. It's called the stria vascularis. If that battery doesn't function properly, then that will cause deafness. So what we can do is we can take a mouse, we can make sure it has the spinster 2 mutation in it, and then we can allow that mouse to develop its hearing impairment as it gets a bit older. There's a large extra chunk of DNA that's inserted into the spinster 2 gene. And because of the mutation, we were able to design an experiment to remove that insertion, activate the gene after the onset of hearing loss. The distinctive thing about our project is that we were able to recover the hearing of the mice after they had already become deaf. This approach would not work directly in humans because most humans don't have exactly that mutation. The next problem is to work out exactly how to do that reversal in the human population.
I'm very passionate about music, but I could not carry a tune. And if I hear a song, I could not play it on the piano. I had no training, but my wife could. She also had no training. This paper started with a very simple question. Why do some people hear music better than others? Some people are gifted, but my question was, is it possible that there's something structural in our ears that makes someone a world-class music listener? Our model is almost entirely structural and physical in nature. We start with the actual hair cells. How do they react to when the sound waves hit them, how they vibrate, how they might convert mechanical energy into electrical energy that is eventually detected by neurons. So I came up with a proxy. The proxy was hearing music means to being able to distinguish between two frequencies. If we play two tones, and if we change the structure of the hair cells and the properties, how would it impact somebody's ability to perceive the difference between them? At what point they will start confusing them? If you tell me that, okay, this person's hair cells, for example, are a little different, now I could begin to tell you that, well, this person is going to have a little trouble hearing or distinguishing frequencies or something, or they may not be able to amplify the sound that well. Things of that kind I can now predict, because it's not a black box model, it's a model of a real physical structure. People take these non-steroid inflammation-reducing medicines like ibuprofen. If they take it at high enough dosage, it can impact their hearing. What I thought was that our model was perfectly suitable for these kind of things. Our hair cells have a very small bending modulus. You can easily bend it. We believe that when people take some medicines, the bending modulus of their cell can change. Now that would explain your change of hearing now. My motivation was my passion for music. The reality is, however, now this study can be used in other ways. We're talking about to understand how the hearing mechanism itself is impacted by the structure of the ear as well. There's a lot we can do, and we can extend it, and we can try to explain other things with music.
So I have studied the impact of exposures such as natural disasters, violence, war, many other exposures that may have an effect on that pregnant person and then on that baby that is born months later. This paper is, in a way, an extension of a line of work that I started almost a decade ago. We witnessed the enormous toll the pandemic took on older adults, and we wondered, does this negative effect extend when the infection is experienced even before birth? And the reason to focus on preterm birth as a measure of infant health is because we know, based on past research, that preterm birth is the main determinant of infant mortality and morbidity in the United States. And so preterm birth is a very relevant measure of infant health because it really patterns the health and well-being of people during their entire lives. And there's also another very important and very troublesome correlation that is people with low income and racially minoritized groups are much more likely to experience preterm birth. This by far precedes the pandemic. This is not news. However, the impact of COVID only exacerbates these gaps. Disadvantaged pregnant persons were much more likely to have a COVID infection and therefore have negative birth health outcomes. Our finding that the negative impact of a COVID infection during pregnancy on preterm birth fully disappeared by 2022 was surprising. The finding that this negative impact of a COVID infection during pregnancy on preterm birth disappeared so much earlier in these communities where people were highly vaccinated was quite shocking. That was a clear message that supporting vaccination among the pregnant population is really relevant, and in particular among vulnerable groups. We were able to do this research because the state of California included information about the COVID status of every pregnant person that went to a facility to give birth. Today, we wouldn't be able to tell the extent to which a COVID infection matters for infant health and whether vaccination helps, because we wouldn't know who was infected. And we focus on COVID, but the implications of this research may extend to other viral infections too.
If you go to a wet market, a local market, let's say in Arusha, Tanzania, you will find all these leafy greens, African eggplants. But let's say you go to a supermarket, you won't see all those local vegetables and local fruits that you would find on the wet market. We call these crops forgotten food crops. Other people call them neglected and underutilized crops. One of the points of our paper is that it's beneficial to get those forgotten food crops back on our plates and back in our farming systems because they truly contribute to a more climate resilient food supply.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 awards ceremony. The National Academy of Sciences is going to honor 21 separate individuals today for their outstanding contributions to science. Now, this ceremony is being webcast live, so for those of you coming up making remarks, keep that in mind. You've got an audience out there, and we welcome reviewers from the US and abroad who are tuning in. Nomination details for awards to be presented next year are available on our website and will be accepted until October 7th of this year. So remember, your hero can't get a prize unless they're nominated. So make sure you get nominations in. Okay, the first set of awards that we're going to announce today are the Cosarelli Prizes. And the Cosarelli Prizes have been named in honor of a past PNAS editor-in-chief, Nick Cosarelli. And prizes are awarded annually to 6 research teams, which correspond to each one of the 6 classes in the academies. Each of these articles have made outstanding contributions in their fields. First of all, for Class 1, which is Physical and Mathematical Sciences, the paper being honored is called Supermassive Dark Star Candidates Seen by the James Webb Space Telescope. In this paper, and you can see the list of authors here on the right side of the screen, it talks about how dark stars are thought to be stars in the early universe that are powered by the annihilation of dark matter within a hydrogen cloud. The authors of this study report 3 objects imaged by the James Webb Space Telescope that are candidate dark stars. The authors say future observations could confirm the existence of dark stars. So let's give a round of applause. Okay, the second paper is for Class 2, Biological Sciences. The paper is Reversal of an Existing Hearing Loss by Gene Activation in SPNS2 Mutant Mice. And yeah, according to this paper, mechanical aids can mitigate the symptoms of hearing loss, but the underlying causes have been considered irreversible. One form of hearing loss causes loss of electrical potential in the fluid in contact with the cells in the cochlea. The authors of this study used a genetic mechanism focused on this SPNS2, and there might be some other way to pronounce this, SPINS2, I don't know, gene to restore hearing in deaf mice, which would certainly be an advantage for all of us aging here at the Academy and sensing our hearing going bad. So let's give a round of applause for them as well. The third Cosarelli Prize is for Class 3, Engineering and Applied Sciences, and it's for the paper, A Minimal Physics-Based Model for Musical Perception. Again, you can see the authors here. A musical perception is actually a complex phenomenon. Variation in the physical properties of the auditory system may account for differences in people's ability to perceive musical tones. The authors of this study developed a model that explains how the geometry and electromechanical properties of hair cells in the inner ear may influence musical perception. And I just love this paper because it had never occurred to me that when I hear a certain tune and love it and someone else hates it, it may be that we're hearing entirely different things. So let's have applause for this paper as well. The fourth one is for Class 4, Biomedical Sciences, and it's being given for the paper Steroid Receptor Coactivator 3 is a key modulator of regulatory T-cell mediated tumor evasion. And in this paper, the protein steroid receptor coactivator 3, SRC3, is expressed in immune cells called regulatory T cells, or Tregs, which help prevent autoimmune diseases. The authors of this study eliminated this SRC-3 expression in the Tregs of genetically engineered mice. The intervention eradicated aggressive breast and prostate cancers without autoimmune side effects. Again, important paper. Congratulations. Class 5 is the Behavioral and Social System Sciences, and it's for the paper Vaccination, Immunity, and the Changing Impact of COVID-19 on Infant Health. Maternal COVID-19 infection is linked to the risk of preterm birth. Authors of this study analyzed data on live births and maternal COVID-19 infections in California. Prenatal COVID-19 exposure increased preterm birth risk early in the pandemic, but this effect had disappeared by 2022. The authors also found that deployment of COVID-19 vaccines may have prevented thousands of preterm births. So congratulations to those authors. And the last Casarelli Prize is for Class 6, Applied Biological, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. It's, the name of the paper is Forgotten Food Crops in Sub-Saharan Africa for Healthy Diets in a Changing Climate. So as climate changes, stable crop production in Sub-Saharan Africa becomes increasingly vulnerable. The authors of this study found that stable crops may no longer be able to grow at approximately 10% of locations in Africa as early as 2070. The study suggests that diversifying food production with underutilized crops could help improve climate resiliency and dietary health. So, final round of applause for the Casarelli Prize winners. Okay, now on to the National Academy of Sciences Awards for 2024. There are actually 2 Atkinson Prizes in psychological and cognitive sciences that will be awarded this year. Let me start with the first one. The first Atkinson Prize is awarded to Stanislaw Duan of INSERM Cognitive Neuroimaging Unit Neurospin Center. And he is being honored for his experimental, computational, and theoretical work on the cognitive mechanisms and brain processes of mathematics, reading, language, and consciousness, all of which are pillars of our culture and faculties that make us human. So, could you please join us on stage, Dr. Duan? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm of course delighted by this extraordinary and unexpected award. The list of previous awardees of the Atkinson Prize is truly dwarfing. And furthermore, I believe I am the first scientist in this list who is working outside of US academia at the Collège de France in Paris and the Neurospin Center in Saclay in France. I am therefore even more grateful to all members of the prize committee for this recognition of what I like to be the vibrant nature of European cognitive science at large. My research bears on the formidable problem of understanding how the brain generates cognition and how only in humans it supports faculties such as language, mathematics, and science, and also a unique form of self-consciousness. And these are not very easy problems. So as far as we all know, I think it is only by standing in the shoulders of giants, on the shoulders of giants, that we can see a little bit further. And my debt goes to my mentor and colleagues. The names will be familiar to many of you: Jean-Pierre Changeux, Jacques Meller, Michael Posner, Elisabeth Spelker, who is here. Thank you, Liz. I would also like to mention the philosopher Dan Dennett, who just died a week ago and whose thinkings and writings had a major influence on my research. And of course my lab, fantastic bunch of young people, my wife and colleague of 37 years, Ghislaine, who tries to crack the even more difficult problem of the baby's mind and brain. If I'm allowed one more word, I would like to end with a plea. For the first time in Europe, in my generation at least, we hear daily speak of war. Weapons, ammunition, military budgets have to increase. The escalation is inevitable, and yet I think it's so contrary to our beliefs in the values of international collaboration and civilization, simply speaking. Can we stop this? Can psychology and cognitive science help at all? Should we all, as scientists and academicians, speak up a bit more? I have no answers, only a sense of the urgency with which we should ask those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The second Atkinson Prize is awarded to Vonnie C. McLeod of the University of Michigan. It is being awarded for her seminal work delineating how economic factors such as poverty, unemployment, and financial insecurity influence family life and adolescent development in ways that have intergenerational consequences. And for her family process theoretical model, tracing effects of racial inequalities, social class, and economic hardship on parenting and adolescent social emotional development. So please join us on the stage. Dr. McLeod.
Thank you. I am enormously grateful to the persons who nominated me and selected me for this award, which represents the capstone of my career, truly. I was a professor at the University of Michigan when the steady drumbeat of stories in the Detroit, Ann Arbor media chronicle how the economic recession in the early 1980s, the worst since the Great Depression of the 1930s, was upending family life. So began my pursuit to understand how family and neighborhood level processes mediated as well as moderated the effects of economic stress on children's socio-emotional development. I share this award and recognition with the many talented and dedicated graduate students, postdocs, and faculty who were my collaborators and made the research process infinitely more gratifying. I thank Patricia Gurin, previous chair of Michigan's Department of Psychology, for her inspirational and steadfast support. My longtime muse and companion, Mutombo Mpenya, who is in the audience today, for being an empathic listener and sharing his wisdom and optimism when I most needed it. And for my parents, for indulging my curiosity and nurturing a love of learning and discovery that continues. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. McLeod. Next up is the Comstock Prize in Physics, and it is awarded to Michelle H. Deveray and Robert Skolkoff of Yale University for their experimental development of circuit QED, realizing that nonlinear quantum optics in electrical circuits at the single photon level and enabling new insights into and control of macroscopic quantum systems, quantum measurements, quantum information processing, and quantum error correction. So please, join us, gentlemen.
Thank you. I feel very honored to receive the Comstock Prize today, together with Rob Skolkoff. It has been a great pleasure to play intellectual ping pong with him for more than 20 years on the questions of how to control synthetic superconducting atoms. I am indebted to Rob for helping me escape from the somewhat abstract mindset of Parisian physics and remain firmly in the camp of experimentalists. While our work has been inspired by quantum information pioneers like Carlton Caves and Bernard Yuki, I would like to particularly acknowledge close and precious colleagues and collaborators I had over the years. I will cite John Clark, John Martinez, Daniel Esteve, Christian Urbina, and finally at Yale, Leonid Glasman, Steve Gervin, Doug Stone, and Shruti Puri. But of course, I have also to thank the many students and postdocs I had the privilege to advise over many years. And last but not least, I would like also to thank my dear wife, Marie-Hélène, who had the courage to marry a physicist.
Thank you. I'm very humbled and honored to be receiving this award, and I'm very excited to share the prize with my friend and colleague, Michelle Devray. Michelle, I'm so grateful for our collaboration and for all the fun and wonderful physics it's produced over the years. I also want to thank another close friend and longtime scientific partner, Steve Gervin. Steve, in my eyes, this prize belongs as much to you as well. I would also like to thank my many mentors over the year, Harvey Mosley, Jonas Muidzinis, Dan Prober, and my colleagues at Yale over the years, Doug Stone, Leonard Glasman, Liang Jiang, and Shruti Puri. I would also like to give thanks to all the talented students and postdocs I've had the privilege of working with over the years, and to all of them for making the fourth floor of Becton Center in New Haven such a wonderful and stimulating environment for exploring the joys and the mysteries of quantum. And finally, last but not least, I would like to thank my family for all their love and support. Thanks.
Next up is the G.K. Warren Prize. It's awarded to Ellen E. Wool of Colorado State University for her exceptional and far-reaching research and publication record that has expanded our understanding of fundamental fluvial and watershed processes in diverse environments, ranging from the Arctic to the tropics, dramatically influenced and guided river management and restoration worldwide, and she introduced broad audiences to the wonders of river science. So, Dr. Wall, please.
Well, thank you. I am deeply honored by this award, and I have 150 words to express my appreciation. So I thank Gordon Grant, Michael Church, and Robert Anderson, my colleagues and leaders in landscape science, for their time and effort in nominating me. And I'll just say to everyone, if you have loving, supportive parents, you try to live your life in a way that thanks them. I think, and I will explicitly thank my parents for that. Richard and Annette Wool for surrounding me with love and security that really allowed me to develop my curiosity, my intellectual passions, my love of adventures in the natural world, and last but not least, the physical strength and confidence to pursue these adventures. I would like to thank my mentors, Victor Baker, William Bull, and Stanley Shum, and my graduate students and colleagues for making work such a joy. And finally, as a very much a field-based scientist who has always looked for the most natural environments I can find anywhere around the globe, I want to thank those who have basically preceded us and ensured that we can still find natural refuges where we can follow our own curiosity in Earth's natural environments. So thank you.
And now on to the Gilbert Morgan Smith Medal. It's being awarded to Robert S. Stenek of the University of Maine for his groundbreaking and synthetic research on marine algae, including documentation of their cascading roles in affecting the structure and function of both current and past coastal marine communities, as well as for his translation of this research to inform modern-day conservation. Dr. Stenek.
I've always said it's better to be lucky than good. And my luck really was a string of mentors that I had. It was just by chance. But Walter Adey at the Smithsonian, Bob Payne, Jeremy Jackson, Jim Estes, who people around here know very well. I worked and learned from them, and I want to thank them and the nominators who thought I was worthy of the Gilbert Morgan Smith Medal. Now, we all know the ocean covers 71% of our blue planet, and marine algae is found in virtually every square centimeter of that surface. Well, Gilbert Smith studied the ubiquitous microscopic algae. I studied the macroalgae that grows on the bathtub ring that we call coastal zones. And there are over 10,000 species of algae in so little time, so I developed a functional grouping approach that revealed convergent patterns and processes that would otherwise be lost in the blizzard of diversity. Such abstractions have obvious limitations, but I found that they could be applied to help us understand what herbivores can eat and can't eat. Variations of this approach are applied to macroalgae that are harmful to baby corals, and who likes baby killers? And so I was able to take this approach in the tropics, looking at distribution and abundance of marine algae, but also to temperate and subarctic kelp forests and the ecosystems that are associated with them. And so my hope was that by using these abstractions, I could shed a bit of light to the structure and functioning of marine ecosystems. But overall, I'm just humbled by this award, and thank you all.
The J. Lawrence Smith Medal is awarded to Edward D. Young of the University of California, Los Angeles. It is for his groundbreaking contributions in cosmochemistry and meteoritics. These include investigations to understand oxygen isotopes in meteorites, constraints on evaporation and condensation in meteoritic materials, distribution of short-lived radionuclides in the solar nebula, and models for aqueous alteration processes in meteorite parent bodies. So, Dr. Young, please.
Thanks very much. So I'm also honored and humbled to be receiving this award from the National Academy. I'm mindful of the great debt that I owe to my many mentors and mentees spread across the globe, some of whom are in this room now, and all of whom inspire me every day. I'm, of course, indebted to my family, my wife, Karen, and daughter, Colleen, who are sitting here today. My debt to them is immeasurable. I want to point out that among their forbearances related to my career is their cheerful participation in impromptu kitchen table lectures about whatever was obsessing me at the time, the origin of Lume 26, for example, in the galaxy. I've been fortunate to be able to work on problems that interest me irrespective of discipline boundaries, and I recommend this path to anyone who has that opportunity. In addition to being just plain fun, the tendency toward polymathy is useful for a scientist. It sparks, I think, creativity. It affords a broad view of the scientific landscape for the problem that you're working on. And in any event, it's something to aspire to. So I will endeavor in this regard, armed with this encouraging new award. So thank you again.
The James Craig Watson Medal is awarded to James Stone of the Institute for Advanced Study. He's being awarded for his contributions to our understanding of accretionary disks and interstellar turbulence, and especially for his development of numerical methods for radiation magnetohydrodynamics and for the development of open source codes that have transformed computational astrophysics across many fields. So please, Dr. Stone.
Thank you, President McNutt. It's an honor to receive the James Craig Watson Medal. When I first was contacted about the medal, of course I was thrilled and honored, but also I thought, wow, how did that happen? And I looked back and I thought, as well, luck has played a role, good fortune has played a role in my career. First of all, I had the great good fortune to work with two amazing advisors, Dimitri Mihalis and Mike Norman, who taught me the importance of computational science to begin with. Secondly, I entered the field just during the period of a really remarkable growth. The exascale computers we're using today are 1 billion times faster than what I used as a graduate student, and that's just completely enabling. And thirdly, I've had the great good fortune to work with an amazing set of colleagues, students, and postdocs, first at Maryland and now at Princeton. I've learned so much from them, and they deserve this award just as much as I do, I think. And then finally, my best fortune was to meet my wife, Penny. For the last 40 years, she's been absolutely foundational to all the success I've had. So, Penny, thank you very much.
And now the Jesse Stevenson Kovalenko Medal. It is being awarded this year to Rusien Mejtov of Yale School of Medicine and Howard Hughes Medical Institute. He elucidated the fundamental link between innate immune system signaling and the induction of adaptive immune responses. He also described the key molecular pieces in cell biology involved in the process. He has incorporated insights from metabolism, neuroscience, and microbiota to explain how homeostasis is maintained and how inflammation occurs. Dr. Mejtov, please.
Thank you, Dr. McNutt. I would like to thank the Academy, my nominators, and the selection committee for this tremendous honor. I would also like to thank my mentors, the present and past members of my lab, my colleagues at Yale University and Howard Hughes Medical Institute for their support, and as well as my scientific friends, many of whom are here in the audience. And I also want to thank my family, especially my wife, Akiko Iwasaki, who's in the audience, also a member of the National Academy, mostly for tolerating me, but also for her support in general. And finally, I want to congratulate all the other winners of the awards this year. It's a really tremendous honor to share the stage with you. Thank you.
The John J. Carty Award for the Advancement of Science, the topic for the award this year is climate science. It's being awarded to Ben Santer of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution for pioneering and sustained research and scientific leadership in rigorously attributing climate change to human cause via vigorous statistical analyses. So Ben, please.
"12 words shaped my life. The balance of evidence suggests a discernible human influence on global climate." The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change published those 12 words in 1995. I led the chapter in which the finding appeared. Back then, a discernible human influence on global climate was controversial. It's not controversial today. There are human fingerprints all over Earth's climate system. I spent my career trying to find those fingerprints. In that scientific odyssey, I had the extraordinary privilege of working together with brilliant women and men. Such privilege comes with responsibility, the urgent need to speak publicly about the reality of human-caused climate change. This responsibility never ends. I'm deeply grateful for the Carty Award, and I'm grateful that I'm part of the National Academy of Sciences. Academy members provide voices of reason in times of unreason. We need those voices now more than ever. Thank you.
The Miriam Mirzakhani Prize in Mathematics is awarded to Sylvia Serfati of New York University for her outstanding contributions to nonlinear partial differential equations and statistical physics.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be here today to receive, in particular, this National Academy Prize named in memory of Miriam Mirzakhani. I am humbled by this award, especially as I remember that sometimes people who get the prizes are not necessarily more deserving than some who don't. So I would like to start by thanks, of course, my teachers and mentors in France, who helped me get to where I am, all my collaborators, my students, from whom I've learned a lot, the Courant Institute, and its wonderful and inspiring colleagues, an institution that's allowed me to grow and has always believed in me. I thank my parents who are watching the live stream, for the education, the love, and the values they gave me. I thank my husband and children for their support, patience, and humor. And I'm especially grateful to this committee that selected me and nominators. I would like to see this as rewarding the pursuit of a personal scientific vision slightly off the beaten path. I hope we can encourage the coming generations to be bold, to be original, and to always seek the truth above the glory. Thank you.
The Michael and Sheila Held Prize is awarded to Ishan Chattopadhyay of Cornell University and David Zuckerman of the University of Texas at Austin for their groundbreaking work on randomness extraction and the construction of Ramsey graphs.
I am deeply honored to receive the Michael and Sheila Held Prize. I'd like to start by thanking my nominators and the selection committee for this amazing honor. I'm deeply indebted to my mentors and many colleagues for teaching me how to research and sharing their wisdom over many years and teaching me that there are beautiful questions in theoretical computer science. In particular, I would like to thank David Zuckerman and Avi Vigderson for their beautiful insights over many years. I would not be here without my family, so I would like to start off by thanking my wife, Saubhagya, who is here with our little baby Meera, who is quite so far, for her love and support for many years and taking all my idiosyncrasies. I would like to thank my father, Buddhadev, who is here from India just for this, and my late mother, who would have been very proud to see me here. Finally, I would also like to thank my father-in-law for being here. Thank you so much.
I'm also very honored to receive this award. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my co-awardee, Ishan, and thanks to all my co-authors and collaborators over the years who have taught me a lot. Finally, I'd like to thank my parents. Hi, Mom. Let me say a few words about our work. It's motivated by the amazing utility of randomness in computing, such as for Monte Carlo simulations and computer security. Yet computers actually rely on outside sources of randomness, such as timing intervals between keystrokes that are really only a little bit random. It's therefore essential to improve the quality of the random source. However, this is impossible with just one general low-quality random source. Ishan and I are receiving this award for an algorithm that combines two very low-quality random sources to create one high-quality random source. Our randomness extractor also gives a major improvement to an important mathematical problem in a field called Ramsey theory, which seeks to find structure even in random-looking objects. Thank you.
Now for the NAS Award in Chemical Sciences. It's awarded to Kimberly A. Prather of the University of California, San Diego for creative and groundbreaking research enabled by the development and implementation of mass spectrometry for chemical analysis of atmospheric aerosols. This program led to advances in the understanding of natural and anthropogenic emissions of aerosol and their impact on air quality, on climate, human health, including aerosol transmission of COVID. Kim, please join us.
Well, thank you. I'm honored and humbled to be standing here and receiving this award, and I'd like to thank the selection committee for choosing me. There are so many people to thank, far more than the 150 words that they gave us. Sorry, Jenny Lee. First, I have to thank my family. I would not be standing here without tremendous backing and support along the way as I move through, including my sister Pam, who's here supporting me in the audience today. I just wouldn't, family is so key. I'd like to acknowledge my research team, and it's a team. Again, I would not be standing here without all the hard work of everyone, past and present, that has been part of the team being my group, as well as CASE, the center that I've directed for the past 14 years. It's been my honor to be able to mentor some wonderful people. You know, their ambition and excitement, it inspires me, and they are our future. And so it's been a pleasure for me to work with an amazing team. From inspirational moments, I can think about last night was a big one, table number 9, where my people that I've admired my entire career were at the table, and this, kind of brings up the words of what else kind of keeps you propped up. And Rita Caldwell taught me, or said, and it's true, we all need a posse. And my posse was at table 9 last night, and and they're right there too. It's been, again, the day-to-day support I can't say enough about. And so one thing I will just say, the final part is, leading CASE for the last 14 years. You get thrown in, we're not meant to be, I don't think we're trained to be directors of major centers, but I've done it for the last 14 years, and I have to thank NSF for investing in me and trusting me. And this is where chemistry is a problem that's central to a big problem, in this case, climate change. And it is really important to be thinking about these problems from end to end, not just making the measurements, not just making the observations, but actually coming up with solutions, which we can do now. And I also, in line with that, would like to thank Vicki Gracian, who stood by me as my co-director. I'd also like to do a shout out to Mario Molina, who was my mentor, and we lost him much too soon, but he was my mentor from day one. He was one of my biggest fans, and he was the one that really instilled in me this importance of end to end, how important it is for us to help with societal problems. Training students across disciplines to not be slowed down by barriers, to just be excited, not fearful, excited to learn to work across all disciplines. It's what it's going to take to solve these massive problems like climate change that are facing us. Finally, I'm humbled and I'm profoundly, touched by this award, and I thank you very much.
Next up is the NAS Award in Molecular Biology. It's being awarded to Shu Oshan of the California Institute of Technology for creatively combining biochemical, biophysical, and structural studies to make pioneering discoveries that reveal how protein targeting and disaggregation machineries achieve fidelity by coupling multiple discrete conformational changes. Dr. Sean.
Well, thanks so much for this recognition from the Academy. I'm deeply honored and humbled. 30 years ago, I arrived in Maryland with just enough to pay for the first term in college and the dream to become a scientist someday. So I thank everyone who made that dream come true. Dr. Richard Armstrong, who gave me a path to work through college by doing research with him. Dan Hirschlag, who taught us how chemistry provides some of the most fundamental answers in biological problems, and whose drive to get to the bottom of the answer has always been my North Star. Peter Walter, who guided me to my transition to work on the problem of protein biogenesis. And it's such a beautiful problem where chemistry, physics, mathematics, and philosophy beautifully intersects with biology and with profound human health implications. And most importantly, I want to thank all the students and postdocs in my lab. Their creativity and fearlessness really take me to realms of science I have never dreamed of. So this award really belongs to them. And last but not least, I want to thank my family, so my parents, my husband Wei Dong, my sons Andy and Raymond. Thank you for your unconditional support all of these years. So thank you.
The next NAS Award is in the area of evolution of Earth and life. It's the Daniel Gerard Elliott Medal, and it's awarded to Terry Ann Williams of the University of California, Santa Cruz for her pioneering research at the interface between physiology, behavior, and ecology. She's developed novel technologies for field measurements of the physiology of free-ranging animals, and she has discovered basic principles about the ecological performance of large predatory mammals in both marine settings, such as whales and seals, and terrestrial habitats, such as lions and cougars. So, please, Dr. Williams.
I gotta catch my breath. This is so wonderful. And I have to thank all of you, and I have to thank everyone that worked behind the scenes to nominate me. This really is an incredible award. And people ask, why study big animals? And why study all of these animals? And the reason is these lions and killer whales and seals and polar bears are the apex predators. These are the top of the food chain, and they are, these pictures up here, this is the glue that's holding our world's ecosystems together. And they are absolutely magnificent in their biological design. Everyone different, everyone unique, everyone filling their particular niche. From the precision of a cheetah pouncing on a gazelle to narwhals' innovative hunting beneath the Arctic ice in Greenland. These are phenomenal kinds of physiology and behavior. And it's been a privilege to study them over all of these years. But my lab has also witnessed the incredible challenges that these animals are facing every single day. And we truly are in a race against extinction. That's what my lab is doing these days. A complete change from how I started my science initially, which is simply a curiosity of some of the most iconic animals on Earth. So we're going to carry on. Basically because a world without these beautiful biological beasts would be a sad world indeed. And this Elliott Award is actually going to go to support our lion research. And so here's to my mentors. Tim Casey, who is my PhD advisor, Jerry Kooiman, my postdoctoral advisor, Dan Costa, who's here today with me, and Jim Estes, who couldn't be here today. And they helped me to stand on a century of giant shoulders that many of the Elliott awardees before me have given me for today. So I'm truly honored, and thank you very much.
The NAS Prize in Food and Agricultural Sciences is awarded to Jeffrey Ross Ibarra of the University of California, Davis, for his use of population and quantitative genetics to study domestication of maize, for revealing the extensive impact of history on genomic diversity in maize, and for demonstrating the utility of genomic approaches to predict crop performance in light of domestic inbreeding. Dr. Ross Ibarra.
I'm
incredibly honored and grateful to receive this award and somewhat surprised. I'm pleased that the National Academy, through this award, is recognizing the importance of basic research, especially evolutionary biology, in our understanding of adaptation and breeding in agriculture. As others have said, I wouldn't be here without a lot of other people, mentors who have guided me along my career, and the numerous trainees and collaborators whose good ideas and hard work have pushed the research forward. Without the really wonderful and welcoming maize genetics community, and without the unwavering support of my friends and family, especially my wife Claudia and my children who are in the audience today. I'd like to also recognize FFAR and Gates Foundation for sponsoring this award, and private and public funders who, especially the NSF Plant Genome Research Program, who for many years have believed in and financially supported our work. Thank you.
The Pradell Research Award is awarded to Paula Arlata of Harvard University for her deep, creative, and foundational contributions to understanding the mechanisms governing generation, integration, and maintenance of cell diversity in developing cerebral cortex, and for her similarly impactful contributions to generate and refine human pluripotent stem cell-derived brain organoid models to investigate mechanisms of development and disease of the human brain. So please, Dr. Arlata.
It is truly a great honor for me to receive this award, which I would like to dedicate to my family, my husband, Claudio, my children, Silvia and Alessandro. They've always been there for me at any moment in my career. And to my father, who sadly passed away recently, but never missed an opportunity to remind us that the most important thing to do in life was to follow our dreams, even when, frankly, it seems pretty impossible. So a huge debt of gratitude, of course, goes to my mentors, to Jeff Macklis, who told me how to be the best scientist I could be, but also to many other people, Doug Melton, Steve Hyman, Pietro De Camilli, Lee Chun Lu, and Carol Mason, who always believed in me and allowed me to be here today. I feel that today is truly a celebration of the work of so many students, postdocs, scholars that I had the privilege to work with every day, really, for the past many years. And it's really their passion, their creativity, their drive that allowed us to turn into science what at times really felt like science fiction. We thought it would be impossible to build the human brain in the lab, and yet they were fearless in their pursuit, and they were able to generate human brain organoids, small replicas, of course, of human brain tissue, but really a great brand new opportunity for exploration into how our own brain develops and into the causes of human neurological disease. I'm very grateful for this award. Thank you so much.
We have 2 Troland Research Awards to be given out today. The first Troland Award is awarded to Christopher Harvey of Harvard Medical School for his pioneering discoveries of the emergent properties of populations of neurons that enable mammals to perform the complex computations needed for decision-making, spatial reasoning, and short-term memory. So, Dr. Harvey.
Thank you. It's a tremendous honor to receive this award, and I want to start by thanking my nominators and the selection committee. It's really extremely special to celebrate this award with my family who's here, my partner Lauren and my daughter Eloise who are here today. Their support and the support of my parents really make everything possible. I also want to thank the past and present members of my research team. So this award is really recognition for the creativity and dedication that they put into their research day after day. And so my lab's goal of understanding the neurobiological mechanisms of cognition and intelligence is an ambitious and a challenging one, where we often don't know what path to take or what an answer would even look like. And so it's really a privilege to tackle this type of research question with them. They make this a really fun process and something where I learn something new every day from them. And so I also want to thank my mentors over the years who have really inspired the scientific path that I've taken and provided key pieces of wisdom at important parts of my career. And these past mentors include Carl Svoboda, David Tank, and more recently Mike Greenberg and David Ginty. And so thank you again for this great honor.
The second Truland Award is going to be given to Jennifer Trueblood of Indiana University in Bloomington for her pioneering research developing mathematical models of cognitive processing that have reshaped our fundamental understanding of how humans make real-world decisions with complex choices, such as those in the area of health and medicine, as well as everyday consumer choice behavior. Dr. Trueblood.
Thank you for those kind words. I first want to thank my nominators and the Academy. It is deeply meaningful and humbling to receive this award. I want to thank my family for their love and support. My husband, Bill, has been one of my closest collaborators and supporters. He is here today along with my parents. I want to thank my mentors, both official and unofficial, whose guidance has shaped my scientific trajectory. In particular, I would like to thank my PhD advisor, Jerome Bussemeyer, whose creativity and mentorship have been so influential to my career. I would also like to thank my colleagues at Indiana University and my former colleagues at Vanderbilt University and the University of California, Irvine. I feel extraordinarily lucky to have learned from so many inspiring cognitive scientists over the years. Finally, I would like to thank all of my students and postdocs, past and present, for the opportunity to do science together. Thank you.
Okay, so now let me turn to the capstone award for the NAS Honors Ceremony, the presentation of our Public Welfare Medal. The Academy's Public Welfare Medal is our most prestigious award and is presented annually to honor extraordinary use of science for the public good. This year, the medal is awarded to Professor Nancy Hopkins from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Of course, Nancy is an outstanding researcher in her own right. She's a member of both the NAS and the NAM, and has been widely recognized and honored for her work using genetics to study cancer in mice and vertebrate development in zebrafish. But the Public Welfare Medal is something different. No remarkable basic research discoveries will earn a scientist this honor. Rather, recipients must have reached beyond science discovery by performing actions that benefit the public good. Specifically, Nancy is being honored for her courageous work to advance equal opportunity for women in science. Her citation reads, "For her courageous leadership over 3 decades in illuminating the unequal treatment of women in science and for her efforts to create and ensure equal opportunity." I recall as though it was yesterday, the day that Nancy Hopkins showed up in a lab at MIT that Lee Royden and I shared in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric, and Planetary Sciences. Nancy was there from the biology department to learn whether the disadvantages for women that she was documenting in the biology department were more widely shared at MIT across the entire School of Science. Now, I don't believe that either Lee Royden or I at the time felt that we were poorly treated. Just like Nancy has often said, every day we thought we were so lucky to be working at such a fabulous institution with such great students and such wonderful colleagues and superior opportunities. But as Nancy started telling us, her carefully documented, quantified findings of inequality Lee and I started reflecting on some of the subtle ways that women in our own department fail to get the same accommodation as our male peers. The size of our offices, the size of our labs, the prestige of the committee assignments we were given, and even salary differentials. Nancy eventually pulled together similar data to what she had for biology for all the departments in the MIT School of Science, except for the math department, which didn't have any women, so it had no one to treat unequally. But the disparities in all the other departments were significant and unexplained by differences in stature of the women compared to their male colleagues as assessed by outside referees. The fact that Nancy was not an activist made her investigations that much more meaningful. And the fact that they were quantified meant that she was speaking a language that the MIT administration would understand. And understand they did. Dean Bob Bergeneau and President Charles Vest used Nancy's observations as a basis for their own investigations that supported her findings and conclusions. Inequities were addressed at MIT as a result. Lee Royden told me that as a result of this, she got a major salary boost that brought her up to parity with men in our department at her same level of seniority. And thanks to the great reporting of her nominator, Kate Zernike, at the Boston Globe at the time, the MIT stand to support women scientists was widely circulated and became literally a shot around the world in true Massachusetts fashion. Nancy's findings resonated with women across the nation. Universities everywhere started to re-examine their treatment of women and correct for decades of inequality. Kate went on to document Nancy's crusade in a best-selling book entitled The Exceptions. The title relates to the fact that as late as 1999, women who exceeded in science were called exceptional, as if it were unusual for a woman to be able to succeed in science. As Kate points out, they were exceptional, but not because they could succeed at science, but because they all accomplished what they were able to and meet the challenges of thriving in science despite the added hurdles they had to overcome. Nancy's leadership in this movement was instrumental to her success and the success of the entire movement. The small retractable tape measure that Nancy went building to building, documenting the smaller size of offices in labs for women, is now enshrined in the MIT Museum to remind us of the importance of science being a meritocracy, regardless of gender, race, or any other irrelevant attributes. And now Nancy Hopkins' name will also be enshrined in the Pantheon of Public Welfare Medalists of the NAS. Nancy, we know that more than 2 decades have passed since your landmark efforts to address unequal treatment of women in academia. My only regret is this honor did not come sooner. Please take the stage and tell us your story, and particularly what new frontiers of equality still need to be addressed. Thank you.
Well, I first want to thank the National Academy of Sciences for this extraordinary honor. It's humbling to join the list of awardees. I'm also grateful beyond words to family, mentors, colleagues, MIT, and to countless women activists and men who made it possible for women of my generation to become scientists at America's great research institutions. I also feel tremendous gratitude to the Academy's leadership and selection committee for choosing to honor this line of work. I see your recognition of work on behalf of equality for women in science as a milestone in women's advancement, and I believe it will further accelerate women's progress as scientists and leaders. Thank you. How did I end up being a spokesperson for women in science? I wasn't even a feminist when I was young. I just wanted to be a scientist. So I'm going to tell you a very brief story of how, and then say a few words about where I think we are today. I fell in love with molecular biology at age 19 in a Harvard class taught by James D. Watson. In 1 hour, he convinced me that DNA was the secret of life. I raced to his office and asked to work in his lab, and he said yes, and he became my mentor. He encouraged me to become a scientist, and he helped make it possible. In college, I assumed the absence of women scientists on the Harvard faculty was because it was too difficult to combine a high-powered career with being the primary caretaker of a family. True, but also wrong. Women couldn't get faculty jobs in America's great research universities at that time. But enormous change was coming. The doors opened thanks to civil rights, women's liberation, and in 1972, Title IX, that prohibited discrimination against women by institutions that receive federal funding. Just as I completed my postdoc training, universities were recruiting women to their faculties. Now talk about good timing. I joined the MIT faculty in 1973. I decided not to have children, so I didn't expect to encounter any obstacles because I was a woman. Science is a meritocracy. Why would gender matter? But it did, even for women who didn't have children. Most obstacles I encountered didn't bother me at first. For example, being told I couldn't teach an important undergraduate course because MIT students couldn't believe scientific information spoken by a woman. Everybody knows that. Or being told I couldn't co-found a biotech company with colleagues because businessmen won't work with women. Well, duh, okay. But other obstacles made it hard to do research. Was it just me? I started watching how other women professors were treated relative to men of comparable scientific accomplishment. After 20 years, I knew that an idea, a result, or a discovery was undervalued if it was made by a woman. The woman and her work might even be invisible. It was a brilliant insight. Years later, I learned I had simply rediscovered what psychologists had already discovered and called unconscious or implicit gender bias. It resulted from cultural assumptions and beliefs people don't even know they have. I tried to explain my brilliant insight to several well-intentioned administrators. It didn't go that well. They didn't get it, and I honestly couldn't blame them. I had to live it for 20 years to understand it. How could they? They were all men. Finally, I overcame my reluctance and talked to other tenured women science faculty. There were 16 of us who were women out of about 200 tenured science faculty. It was extremely embarrassing because I suspected the women thought, as I had for so long, that if you were really good enough, obstacles wouldn't matter. To my astonishment, almost every woman had figured it out too. We decided to work together to address the problem. Those women are the reason that I'm here today. One woman's problem, no matter how egregious, can usually be ascribed to its special circumstances. Together, the women's experiences revealed a pattern that defined a little understood form of discrimination. Now, at this moment, somebody is bound to be thinking, are you sure those women were really as good as those men? Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. 4 of the 16 women won the U.S. National Medal of Science. 11 were members of this academy. 3 would later become institute professors, MIT's highest faculty award. They looked like the top third or half of any typical MIT department. Over several months, the women talked, planned, plotted, and drafted a letter to MIT's Dean of Science, physicist Bob Birgeneau. We asked him to form a committee to examine the issues using MIT's own impeccable data to confirm or refute our perceptions of inequity. Bergeneau has described our meeting with him as a eureka moment. Seeing the women speaking as one, the pattern was instantly clear to him. He became our strong supporter and advocate. He established a committee that included 3 male department heads. One, a Nobel laureate, pressed me to write a detailed report so the dean could fix the documented inequities we found, and he did. The women were thrilled. However, we realized that this didn't change the underlying cause of inequities, and almost no one at MIT knew it had even happened because the women had worked in secrecy so as not to damage their careers. But in 1999, Lottie Balin, a professor at MIT's Sloan School, became the chair of the MIT faculty. She asked me to write a short summary of our work with Dean Bergeneau to share with all MIT faculty. MIT's President Charles Vest strongly endorsed the findings. Kate Zernike, a young reporter at the Boston Globe, got wind of this story, and it ended up on the front page of the newspaper. 2 days later, it was on page 1 of the New York Times. The public reaction overwhelmed us. Email poured in from women saying, "You won't believe it, the same thing happens to me and no one believes me." A few weeks later, I found myself shaking hands with President Bill and Hillary Clinton, who said, "Thank you on behalf of the nation." I said, "Oh, me? Are you speaking to me?" I was so surprised. And they urged all institutions to do data-driven gender equity studies like the MIT report. Soon I was asked to lecture on the report at universities, companies, to the government. The press called every day or lined up outside the office. I was running a national program out of my office, so I asked President Vest what to do about this. Vest had already ordered gender equity reports be done in all departments of MIT. Now he asked me to join the central administration and work with the provost and chancellor to help devise institutional solutions. And the effort was expanded to include underrepresented minority faculty. When the Council on Faculty Diversity was launched, Chuck Vest said to me, "Nancy, I don't know how to fix marginalization, but anything I can measure, I can fix." Very MIT. Under Provost Bob Brown's leadership with the Deans of Science and Engineering, senior women and minority faculty, and using data from MIT's superb Office of Institutional Research, we redesigned hiring practices, updated pay equity reviews, rewrote family leave policies, built daycare on campus, appointed women and minority faculty to powerful administrative roles, held a conference on the unique biases experienced by women of color, Shirley Malcolm's famous double bind. And President Vest invited the presidents of 8 other research universities to come to MIT to share data and best practices. Within a few years, MIT really was a different place. The next president of MIT was a woman. For women of my generation, the progress was breathtaking. There were babies on campus, babies. And junior women faculty could take family leave and get tenure rather than hiding their pregnancies as they used to. And the progress has been maintained. This year, MIT's president and provost had numerical data collected to mark the 25th anniversary of the 1999 report on women faculty. Salary, space, hiring rates, they're all equitable. And by the way, today, the president, the provost, the chancellor, and the dean of science at MIT are all women. So is everything fixed? Uh-oh. What about the marginalization of women from important professional opportunities that President Vest said he didn't know how to fix? Did MIT succeed in changing the unconscious biases and behaviors of 1,000 faculty? And what about the world outside MIT that impacts the institution and which is often very different from the culture within the university? Here's an example. While MIT was changing, a pretty good control experiment was running alongside. Namely, a biotech industry grew up around the university. MIT faculty play critical roles as founders of startup companies. Did I mention that 40 years ago I was told I couldn't participate because I was a woman? Did the industry change? 5 years ago, MIT's President Emerita, Susan Hockfield, and our colleague, Professor Sangeeta Bhatia, a bioengineer, and I decided to find out by looking at data and women faculty's experience in biotech. Guess what? The startup culture had hardly changed at all. Women faculty are seldom asked to be co-founders with male colleagues or serve on the boards of startups. When women pitch, they're advised to bring only male trainees with them. It might upset the venture capitalists. In just 7 MIT departments of science and engineering, if women faculty had founded companies at the same rate as men, today there would be 40 additional biotech and tech companies. In biology alone, of 56 faculty-founded companies, only 2 involved women. So now President Hockfield and Professor Bhatia work with MIT and Boston area venture capitalists to support women interested in founding startups. So the bottom line, behavioral change is really hard without powerful insider intervention. In my era, MIT's approach to gender equity was data-driven and policy-driven. Other institutions have done groundbreaking work more focused on changing the culture and identifying the underlying biases that lead to marginalization and undervaluation. And MIT has adopted these approaches in recent years. I'm thinking of the NSF's superb advanced program and the 2018 National Academy's report on sexual harassment, which had a huge impact, and Sea Change from AAAS and many others that have been groundbreaking. So how does science look today to younger women who are still in the trenches? This year, Kate Zernike, who's now at the New York Times, published a history of the MIT story called The Exceptions. I joined Kate on several stops of her book tour this year. So here are a few anecdotal observations from the self-selected attendees we met and hear from through email. Okay, so senior women faculty say, yes, there's been a lot of progress, but there's still a way to go. And the 2 key issues are still often greater family responsibilities for women and unconscious gender bias. Women of color still experience far greater marginalization than majority women, and huge effort is needed there. But wonderfully, women talk far more openly about these issues. They don't have to hide the fact that this is a real issue. By the way, I should warn you, some young women are very angry that in 2024, they still are talking about gender bias and even sexual harassment, for heaven's sakes. And they asked us, why hasn't anything changed? Youth, gotta love them. To a point. But really surprising and exciting for me was the reaction of many men to Kate Zernike's book. They told us they hadn't understood these issues until they read The Exceptions, and now they want to participate in accelerating change. One Nobel laureate is on a crusade to recruit his colleagues to the cause. This is tremendously exciting, since only when women and men share power equally and address these issues together will we be done. I came away reminded that while social change is slow, it does happen, but not by itself. We can't change our own unconscious biases. But as Harvard's great psychologist Liz Spelke says, change the world and the biases will change with it. In closing, I want to thank the Academy again. There's been so much progress for women in science, but there's still more to do, and now is a time of backlash in society. You've sent a clear message that women are essential to America's scientific mission and excellence. It's a historic statement. I thank you.
Well, thank you all. You have been a wonderful audience. I think all of the awardees in this room must feel the love from all of you. Thank you. So the next event here is the garden party, which is slated to start at 4 p.m., but believe me, it will start as soon as you get there. So I'll see you all there, and let's give a final round of applause for all our awardees.